Let's get into it. And we encourage you guys to actually go on our page, not now, enjoy the live, but once this live is over, check out the latest Auburn mix with Hugh Freeze. This is actually kind of an advertisement of sorts for that latest episode that we released for you guys. But Mike G, you had sat down with Hugh Freeze, and one of the things that you wanted to discuss is scheme offensively.
Yeah.
This is Hugh Freeze's offense going into 2024, and you talked a lot about, you asked him about 12 personnel, which is something they begin to run heavy, and he acknowledged that. So let's talk about that, and we'll come back with a few comments and thoughts.
Last year, you guys ran toward the season. It seemed like you were leaning more 12 personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going into this year, you think maybe you see more 11
Yeah.
and 10
Yeah,
personnel
you would
out
think
there?
so. I mean, that's more. I love 12 personnel, but I think I think there's a time for it for sure. But we were heavy into that, if not 13, some.
Yeah.
And so I definitely think you'll see more balanced in 11, 10, and 12.
So Hugh Freeze is hopeful that Auburn will be a lot more balanced this year as opposed to last year. Dustin, I want you to jump in here real quick. Mike, I know you got some thoughts based on that, but Dustin, your thoughts about what we should expect to see, or what you think will be a deciding factor to determine if Auburn is more balanced this year, or will we continue to see a lot of 12 personnel in 2024? What were your thoughts about Hugh Freeze's comments?
Well, what we ultimately end up seeing probably comes down to the performance of Peyton Thorne, right? Like if he's playing well, then we're going to see more packages where there's more receivers out there and they're throwing the ball. The reason why I had to go to 12 and 13 personnel sometimes was because the passing game was anemic and you didn't even get over 2,000 yards, and running the rock was the only way you could successfully move the sticks at all. So a lot of that falls right on Peyton Thorne. But in terms of just what the game plan is as far as personnel goes into next year, I think it's Hugh is slowly kind of getting the guys in there that match his system, right? So, you know, the Cam Coleman's of the world, the Perry Thompsons, Cam Brown seems like he made a nice jump this summer. Like Lambert Smith from Penn State, he went and got Robert Lewis. He went and got guys that have experience, or the guys that he recruited for the most part from the high school level, of the Perry and Cam, are these big outside threats. He feels like he's going to have the tools to run more of a Hugh Freeze offense. And a word that Hugh Freeze says all the time, if you notice since he's been at Auburn, he uses the word collaboration a lot. Last year, I feel like I've noticed it. When it comes to the collaboration last year, clearly it didn't work. Clearly he was bringing in a guy that he had never worked with before in Philip Montgomery. So he spoke. I played a clip on our show last Tuesday night. It was Hugh in about 3 or 4 weeks into the season last year, just talking about in a press conference how much he's struggling with giving over the offense. And he mentioned, I can't even come in here and edit terminology because we're too far down the road, right? There's nothing I could do at this point to fix some of the things that I think are going wrong. Starting fresh this year, went and got Derek Nix, a guy that he feels like, okay, promoted Ken Austin up from off the field to an on the field position role, right? He feels like, all right, I've got my crew in here that we're all going to collab together and it can work. And then on top of that, I went out and got a stud like Cam Coleman, a stud like Perry Thompson, a proven guy like Lambert Smith to put on the outside, and then kind of win those one-on-one matchups of the RPO. Because that's the thing, we can talk about pass attempts versus run attempts and all that kind of stuff. Well, if under Hugh's true system, not what Phillip did last year, but under what Hugh wants to really do, that kind of is determined by the defense, right? It's run, pass, option. But you got to have the things out there on the outside where you can win those matchups one-on-one. And I'll close out with this. I think that if you look at you give me Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman, and Lambert Smith versus Jair Shorter, Nick Marner, and Shane Hooks, I'm going to take the first group. And I think that this season is going to bear that out statistically. So I just think that he feels more comfortable. He's been through a spring practice now. He saw Cam Coleman do what he did at A-Day. He feels like, okay, man, I got some guys out there that we can throw it up and they'll go get the damn ball.
Mike G, your thoughts? Because and I'm gonna soft pitch this one, softball underhand this one to you. During spring, Auburn was in a bit of a wide receiver conundrum, right? If guys weren't on campus just yet, they were either injured, and so Auburn didn't have an opportunity to really display any of what Hugh Freeze was hopeful we would see in the fall. What do you think has to change between now and the fall to begin to see some of that balance?
Nothing. I don't think they have a choice. They've got it. They've just got to do it. You don't not throwing the ball to these guys is not an option. It's just not. Yeah, they've got to try. They're going to have to force the ball a little bit more, and they're going to have to put more faith in Peyton Thorne to do that. And I think that the belief, the thing that he's been saying out loud, has been, if you upgrade the weapons around Peyton, I think you'll see a better Peyton based on his history at the position. He had Michigan State, he had Keon Coleman and the other kid, and now they've added Cam Coleman. It may be difficult to ask a freshman to carry that load, but when you're a top 5 prospect overall, that's part of the weight that comes with being rated that highly. You're expected to come in and produce immediately. I think fans should have some grace for Cam Coleman based on how this goes next year. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, Auburn ran a ton of 12 personnel over the last 4 or 5 games of last season. They took the air out of the football, and he said during this interview, Peyton Thorne's pass attempts were the lowest of his career for starting quarterbacks. Now, why do we think that is? That's not that Peyton just didn't decide to throw it. But dude, they took the air out of the football, man. It was a 61-39% run to pass ratio last year. That's insanely lopsided in today's college football, and they've got to put the air back into football. So what has to change? What has to change is they just have to throw the ball more, period. And they don't have a choice to not, right? Like, you have to. You made promises to these kids that came in, and they're believing, based on what happened last year, what you told them, the reason we didn't throw the football was because we didn't have you. Well, now you have me, so I expect you to do it, period. That's it, right? Like, if you're Cam Coleman, you're not sticking around for another year if they don't put the air back into the football. You're going to sit here and you're going to wait, and somebody's going to give you anything you want to go to another program after this season.
Well, I get that. I get that, Mike. I mean, obviously, Cam Coleman is going to be on the outside, right? KLS will be on the outside. Perry Thompson will be on the outside. But if you're going to 10 personnel, who are the other guys catching the ball?
Okay, so Cam Coleman, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and then who's at the slot? I think Robert Lewis, he played on the outside this spring, but I think you move him to the slot. Okay. You're crowded outside with Cam Brown and Perry Thompson coming in the summer. I think they're going to find ways to get Perry Thompson the ball. Like, if you put Robert Lewis on the outside, it kind of forces him further down that list. So I think you have that. And then, I think it's pretty clear at this point that they like Sam Jackson's chemistry, right? So if you're in 10 personnel, which we'll see if they do that, as much as he would like to do it, then he is the fourth receiver on the field. If you're in 11 personnel where you only have one slot, I think he is the next option behind Robert Lewis.
I think that's ideal. Because you still have your tight ends that you want to have on the field to feed the ball to, right?
Right. Rivaldo Fairweather stays on the field.
Rivaldo stays on the field, so I can see us more so in an 11, even if you do 4 wideout splits. I mean, you still got Rivaldo out there in some form of fashion.
Yeah, I mean, he was clearly the only tight end they were willing to throw the ball to last year. Right, your second leading tight end was Brendan Fraser, and he had 7 receptions for 73 yards on the season. So they don't want to throw the ball to the other guys. And you return to nearly that whole room except for Fromm. I think Fromm dipped out of here. So, to me, it's you need to have guys on the field that you're willing to force the ball to, or that you feel like can make plays for you. Outside of Fairweather, that's not it, right? And then you brought in new guys at the slot. So I think that based on, he seems to trust the guys he brings in first a lot more than the guys that existed here. So these new guys that come in, I think he's going to throw the ball to them. They'll get opportunities to show what they can do.
Yeah, I think there's a reason for what Mike just said, and that's because look at the recruiting rankings before Hugh Freeze took over, and look where they're at now. That's because the guys that he's bringing in, for the most part, are better, and he knows that.
Guys,
Yeah, I would argue, Justin. Yeah, from high school, they're good. Nobody's saying the guys from high school aren't good, but man, they missed a lot in the portal last year, and I'm not sure if I totally trust their portal evaluation. I think there's a differentiation between the two, so we'll see how the portal guys do. Certainly, but like
Yeah.
I would not for certain say the guys they're bringing in from the portal are better. I think they
No,
hope they're better.
I agree with you on that, but I was talking about high school. I should have been more specific. I view the portal as like a Band-Aid, and then like for example, you look at what we did on the defensive line. Like you had to do that, right? You didn't have any other option, or you're going to literally be counting on guys like T.J. Lindsey and Malik Blockton to play significant reps as 18-year-olds in the SEC on the D line. You don't want to do that, so you had to go get a Trill Carter. You had to go get a Blitty. I don't think those guys, like in 3 years, T.J. Lindsey, Malik Blockton will be better football players than those guys. I just think that like Hughes it looks like this time around he's using the portal more so as a Band-Aid. I got to patch some holes here. I got to patch some holes there. I do think though, Mike, and I agree with you, but I think at the wide receiver position, I do like what he brought in Robert Lewis and KLS. I do think he did upgrade at that position using the portal.
I agree with that, Dustin. I think he had better success this year than opposed to last year. We still can really tell what Martner was leaving spring last year.
Listen, if you're not going to be precise at quarterback, then he had to go out and get pass catchers with radius. And you could say what you want about the pass game, but look, man, there was a reason they took the air out of the football, and it primarily had to do with the quarterback. Right? If he was dropping dimes in the pass game, those receivers, all of them would have looked at least a little better last year. Like again, there's a belief, and they keep saying this part out loud, that if there's a reason he keeps talking about catch radius. They want guys that can go up and catch 50-50 or what they're now calling 80-20 balls. You want a guy. The issue is that those guys aren't in abundance. They're rare. 80-20 guys are rare. There are not a ton of them in college football. If there were, right, you'd see crazy numbers from every starting quarterback in the SEC, right? So finding those guys, like Cam Coleman is absolutely an 80-20 guy. Now, like, how much will it bear out this year? I don't, like I said, he's still a freshman. So I cautioning fans from putting too much weight on Cam Coleman's shoulders this year. As talented as he is, give him time to develop and make some mistakes. And not be perfect this year and not come in and be expected to save Auburn's passing game in year one. This is a multi-step process, and Hugh Freeze is telling people that. Look, give me time. Every time you ask him, he says, give me 2 more recruiting classes. He said that to me twice straight to my face. Hey, when are we going to be celebrating your SEC championship? Give me 2 more recruiting classes. And to Dustin's point, right, he does see the portal as a Band-Aid. He absolutely sees the portal as a Band-Aid because he's saying that part out too. He said, that's not the way to do this. I think we need to build this thing from high school. That takes time. And, while these guys may be an upgrade over the long term, you got to have guys that fit your system. Gus was like that. Every coach has been like that. So, for me, a lot of the change in the talent is more about finding guys who fit what you're trying to do offensively, and and hopefully for the guys like Jay who left, they fit into programs that are more custom to their what they do well.
I think ideally, and I'm gonna put a bow on this. Ideally, I think the goal for Hugh Freeze is to try to get to 11 personnel. I still think we see a lot of 12 personnel at different points because obviously you want to run the ball and be effective with the guys we got in that running back room. So I expect to see a good bit of 12, but I hope we can actually be efficient running 11 personnel because you still got Valdo out there. Hopefully you got a slot guy, and the passing game takes a step forward.
Today's quick cut was brought to you by the folks over at MANSCAPED. Are you ready to soak up some summer vibes and unveil your ultimate beach body? Well, you're in luck because our friends at MANSCAPED have you covered from head to toe with the Performance Package 5.0. This ultimate all-in-one grooming kit is set to have you looking and feeling your best this summer in the sun. Trust MANSCAPED and unlock your confidence that you'll need to turn heads this season. Join 10 million men worldwide who trust MANSCAPED by heading over to manscaped.com and using code RAPPORT for 20% off plus free shipping. Let's make this summer your smoothest one yet. For full episodes, make sure you head over to the War Report's YouTube channel and check out The Weekend Tailgate. Every Sunday, we're going live Join us on the live stream at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until the next time, War Eagle.